Everything that could go wrong in the Landman Season 2 finale did go wrong. Not slowly, not quietly, but all at once. Lines were crossed, careers were shattered, and by the final moments, it felt like the entire world of this show was collapsing under its own weight. This was not a controlled ending. This was chaos, and honestly, it was exhausting in the best and worst way possible. The final episode opens exactly how you would expect after the tension of episode 9, with no breathing room at all. There is no calm, no recap that makes you feel safe, just immediate pressure. Phones ringing, people snapping at each other, unfinished conversations hanging in the air like threats. From the first minutes, the episode makes it clear that consequences are finally here and nobody is prepared for them. Tommy's firing is no longer theoretical, it is real, public, and humiliating. One moment he is a man who built MTechs alongside Cammy, the next he is being escorted out of the company like a liability that needs to be erased. And what hurts the most is not just that he lost his job, but how fast everyone moved on. Cammy doesn't hesitate. She doesn't second-guess herself. She frames it as a necessary evolution, as if loyalty and experience suddenly mean nothing compared to risk and ambition. You can see it on Tommy's face that this is not just about work, this is about identity. This company was his life, and watching it slip away so easily feels brutal. At the same time, the show refuses to slow down and let us sit with that pain, because while Tommy is losing everything, the offshore drilling project is already showing cracks. What was celebrated with champagne just days ago now feels unstable and dangerous. Small technical issues, rushed decisions, ignored warnings, all of it stacking up in a way that makes you deeply uncomfortable. You can feel that something is wrong even before anyone says it out loud. Cammy, however, doubles down. She convinces herself that fear is weakness and caution is failure. And this is where the episode truly goes off the rails, because instead of learning from Tommy's absence, she becomes more reckless without him. Meanwhile, Cooper's situation starts to spiral in a completely different direction. After the violent incident at the bar, the consequences finally catch up to him. The episode does not try to justify his actions, but it also does not paint him as a villain. It sits in that uncomfortable space where you understand why he reacted, but you cannot ignore how far he went. Police involvement, legal uncertainty, and the quiet realization that his future might already be ruined weigh heavily over every scene he appears in. This is the same Cooper who just stepped into leadership, who just proved himself, and now all of that progress feels fragile, like it could disappear overnight. And what makes it even more tragic is that he knows it too. The confidence he gained earlier in the season is replaced with fear and regret, and for the first time you see him question whether becoming like the men around him was ever worth it. While all of this is happening, the personal fallout begins to spread. Tommy goes home to a life that was built on an income that no longer exists. Angela, who has always used money as a solution to every problem, is suddenly faced with a reality she cannot buy her way out of. The tension between them is quiet but sharp. Nothing is said directly, yet everything is implied. You can feel the distance growing with every look, every pause, every unfinished sentence. The episode makes it painfully clear that love alone might not be enough to hold this family together anymore. And this is just the beginning. By the end of this first stretch of the finale, the message is unmistakable. The systems that kept everyone safe, employed, and emotionally stable are breaking down. Authority is questioned, loyalty is punished, violence has consequences, and the feeling that lingers is not excitement, but dread. Because if this is how the episode starts, then whatever's coming next is going to hurt even more.
As the episode pushes forward, the fallout becomes impossible to contain, and the weight of every bad decision made all season finally crashes down on everyone at once. The offshore drilling project, which Cammy treated like a personal adrenaline experiment, starts to feel less like a bold vision and more like a ticking bomb. Meetings turn tense. Engineers hesitate before answering questions. People exchange looks that say more than words ever could. There is a growing sense that nobody actually believes in this operation anymore. They're just too afraid to say it out loud. Cammy, instead of listening, grows colder and more defensive. She interprets doubt as betrayal, and it becomes painfully obvious that removing Tommy didn't make her stronger, it isolated her. Without him, there is no counterbalance, no voice reminding her that ambition without control leads to disaster. And the show makes sure we feel that absence in every scene. Meanwhile, Tommy is forced to confront a version of himself he has been avoiding for years. Stripped of his authority and routine, he wanders through the episode like a man trying to understand where he went wrong. Conversations that once felt easy now feel strained. Friends don't know what to say to him. Some avoid him entirely. And what hurts most is realizing how disposable he was to a system he helped build. The bitterness doesn't explode outward, though. Instead, it sinks inward, turning into quiet disappointment and self-doubt. At home, the situation with Angela grows more fragile by the minute. She pretends everything is fine, keeps up appearances, but the cracks are obvious. Her patience thins, her tone sharpens, and when money finally becomes a real concern, not an abstract one, the love she claims to have for Tommy feels conditional. The episode never has her say it outright, but it doesn't need to. The way she looks at him now, the way she avoids talking about the future, says enough. At the same time, Cooper's legal trouble becomes to define him more than his achievements. Rumors spread fast. People at MTech start whispering. Some see him as a hero, others as a risk waiting to explode. Cammy notices this shift immediately. Where she once saw potential, she now sees danger. The same aggression that impressed her before suddenly becomes unacceptable now that it threatens her image and her company. Cooper feels the ground slipping beneath his feet, and for the first time, he understands how quickly loyalty disappears when power is involved. His relationship with Ariana becomes strained under the pressure. Fear replaces hope. Plans for the future feel naive now. Even Miguel, who represents innocence and stability, becomes a reminder of everything Cooper might lose. And through all of this, the episode keeps tightening its grip. Scenes bleed into one another without relief. There are no easy answers, no comforting moments to balance the chaos. Even the quieter interactions carry tension, like everyone is waiting for the final collapse. The show also starts to hint that the danger offshore is not just emotional or financial, but physical. Alarms, rushed instructions, and last-minute adjustments suggest that the sea is not forgiving mistakes the way people on land might. It feels like the environment itself is pushing back against Cammy's arrogance. And somewhere beneath all this noise is the unspoken truth that Tommy warned them about this exact outcome. The tragedy is that his absence is what makes that truth impossible to ignore. By the time this section of the finale comes to an end, the episode has fully transformed from a character drama into a slow-moving disaster. No one is safe, not reputations, not relationships, not even lives. And the overwhelming feeling is that the worst has not happened yet. It's still coming. By the time the finale reaches its final stretch, everything feels unstable, like the story is standing on cracked ground that could give way at any second. The offshore operation finally reaches the point of no return, where decisions made in comfort are now being tested in reality. What once felt like confidence now reads as denial. Cammy is forced to confront the consequences of shutting out the one person who knew how to manage both the risk and the people. Problems that would have been minor under Tommy's leadership grow into serious threats, and the panic she tried so hard to suppress starts leaking through. Her control slips in small but telling ways. Sharp orders, rushed calls, moments of hesitation she quickly tries to hide. The episode makes it clear that leadership without humility is dangerous, and Cammy's refusal to admit fault only accelerates the collapse. At the same time, Tommy is drawn back into the orbit of the very world that rejected him. Calls start coming in, not apologies, just quiet questions. People who once dismissed his caution now need his expertise. And this is where the episode becomes deeply ironic. The man deemed too careful is suddenly the only one who knows how to stop everything from falling apart. Yet Tommy hesitates, not out of pride, but exhaustion. Helping again would mean reopening wounds that are still bleeding. It would mean saving a company that discarded him without a second thought. And for the first time, he considers letting it burn. Meanwhile, Cooper's situation reaches a breaking point. The legal pressure intensifies, and the weight of what he did finally settles in. He replays the moment over and over, questioning whether he protected Ariana or destroyed his own future in the process. The episode refuses to offer clarity here, and that uncertainty is what makes it so heavy. Cooper is no longer the rising star or the confident leader. He is a young man trapped between guilt and fear, realizing that one act of violence can erase years of effort. His relationship with Ariana becomes quieter, more fragile. They don't fight, but they don't dream either. The silence between them is louder than any argument. Back at home, Angela's mask begins to slip completely. The lifestyle she built her identity around is crumbling, and instead of adapting, she lashes out. Subtle resentment turns into open frustration. She starts blaming Tommy for choices that were never truly his alone. And in doing so, she reveals what the audience has suspected all along, that security matters more to her than partnership. This realization is painful, not just for Tommy, but for anyone who hoped their marriage had more depth than convenience. The episode also quietly ties these personal failures to the larger themes of the show. Power, when left unchecked, corrupts. Money, when treated as a solution, erodes responsibility. And ambition, when driven by ego, destroys the very foundations it relies on. As the finale pushes closer to its end, the tension becomes almost unbearable. Every storyline feels like it's racing toward a breaking point, yet the episode resists giving immediate release. Instead, it stretches the discomfort, forcing the audience to sit with the consequences rather than escape them. The sense of dread is no longer subtle, it is overwhelming. And when it finally feels like something catastrophic is about to happen offshore, the question is no longer who will survive financially or emotionally, but whether everyone will make it out at all. The final moments of the episode are where Landman fully embraces chaos and refuses to offer comfort. The offshore drilling operation finally collapses into the disaster everyone feared but tried to ignore. What starts as confusion quickly turns into panic. Orders are shouted, mistakes compound, and the sense of control Cammy clung to evaporates in real time. This is no longer about ambition or vision, it is about damage control, and there is no one left who truly knows how to contain it. In the middle of the crisis, the truth becomes unavoidable. Tommy was never the problem, he was the safeguard, and by pushing him out, Cammy removed the last barrier between calculated risk and reckless destruction. The episode doesn't need dramatic speeches to make this clear. The silence between frantic moments says everything. Back on land, the personal fallout reaches its emotional peak. Tommy is forced to decide whether to step back into the role that nearly destroyed him or finally walk away for good. Helping would mean saving people who didn't stand by him. Walking away would mean living with the consequences of letting it all fall apart. The show leaves this choice painfully unresolved, emphasizing that sometimes there is no version of events where everyone wins. Cooper's story also reaches a devastating standstill. The legal consequences are no longer abstract. His future at MTEX is effectively over, and the life he imagined with Ariana and Miguel feels impossibly distant. There is no dramatic redemption, no sudden reassurance, just the quiet understanding that some actions permanently change the direction of your life. Ariana, too, is left vulnerable, her job and stability threatened by association rather than guilt. The injustice of it all lingers heavily, reminding us how collateral damage spreads far beyond the original mistake. Angela, faced with the reality she avoided all season, is finally cornered by her own values. Without money to shield her, she must confront what truly matters to her, and the answer is not flattering. Her relationship with Tommy stands on the edge of collapse, not because love disappeared, but because it was never enough to begin with. And as the episode closes, Landman resists the temptation to tie everything up neatly.
Instead, it leaves us with uncertainty. The offshore project's future is unclear, MTEX is unstable, families are fractured, careers are ruined, and the people who thought they were in control are now facing the consequences of their choices. The finale doesn't end with triumph or hope. It ends with reflection, regret, and the uncomfortable realization that this entire season was a slow march toward inevitability. Landman Season 2 didn't just go off the rails, it dismantled the tracks completely, leaving us to wonder whether anything can truly be rebuilt from here. The final moments of the episode are where Landman fully embraces chaos and refuses to offer comfort. The offshore drilling operation finally collapses into the disaster everyone feared but tried to ignore. What starts as confusion quickly turns into panic. Orders are shouted, mistakes compound, and the sense of control Cammy clung to evaporates in real time. This is no longer about ambition or vision, it is about damage control, and there is no one left who truly knows how to contain it. In the middle of the crisis, the truth becomes unavoidable. Tommy was never the problem, he was the safeguard, and by pushing him out, Cammy removed the last barrier between calculated risk